Wednesday, August 20th. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geeknights. Tonight, after our week at the beach, we return to bring you our somewhat haphazard coverage of Otakon 2008.
Let's do this.
Well, here it is, the moment, the night you've all been waiting for. It's finally the Otakon coverage that I'm sure a lot of new listeners have been asking about, waiting for, looking for.
Yeah, we really kind of stink at this Otakon coverage because, first of all, it always comes way after Otakon. It's already been like a week and a half since the thing ended.
A week and a half. Whoa.
Right? And we don't cover any of the news or anything that actually happened there so much.
Well, here's the rationale for that. I mean, we go to all these conventions, and we could do the report of, and such company licensed such, and then so-and-so said that they were going to license such and such. But you get that on the Anime News Network, and what are we going to say? Well, that show was good, and that show was bad, and I don't know why they licensed that show, but you get that from us anyway, so...
Yeah, I don't know. It's more of a review of, you know, what it was like at Otakon.
Well, that is convention coverage. To me, when someone says they're covering
the thing
a convention...
is, we've done that show. We've done the What It Was Like at Otakon show 2 or 3 times already.
Yeah, and every year it's different.
I guess.
I think so.
It's a little bit different.
Plus, we have a lot of new people. I mean, we have more new listeners than we had listeners from previous Otakons.
I hope so. Anyway. So before we do that, should we do some non-Otakon news and such?
Well, we should at least, blah, blah, blah. This is Geeknights. I'm glad you finally found our website. You listened to us. You saw our panels, whatever. If you really want those lists of anime you should see or the creators or all that, we're going to put together something at some
we
point.
promised like some stuff to people who came to our panels. Like we did an anime you should see panel, and it was like, yeah, we'll put a list of anime you should see on a website somewhere because we know you haven't been writing it down. And well... Yep. We'll get around to it.
I've got about half of it done because I'm making a good slideshow to use at future cons where we've been asked to do the same
I actually
panel.
just upgraded the WordPress, so that it would work with the iPhone app, so we'll be able to do a little bit more until I eventually redo the site completely when we'll be able to do anything we want. And in addition, anyone who is not in the forums, you should join them. I mean, if you're listening to this right now, that means you're a listener of Geeknights. Why aren't you in the Geeknights forum talking to
They might just be people who are like, oh, Otakon coverage, and all the other Otakon coverage is gone, and I'm bored, and I'm looking forward to the next Otakon. Oh my gosh.
Well, if that's the case, you're awesome because you found the best Otakon coverage in the universe. And now that you found it and you realize that you have stumbled into this world of the most amazing podcast, why would you not want to join the forum of this amazing show?
Anyway, so yes, just so you know, the way the show works, the way we do this every night for the last 600 or so episodes is we talk about the news a little bit. We have a little bit called Things of the Day, which if you can't figure out what that is, then you might have some problems with the rest of our show. And then we talk about what we're talking about. And tonight we're talking about Otakon. But before that, I want to talk a little bit about the New York Anime Festival.
When is that?
That is actually at the end of September. In fact, it is specifically September 26th, 27th, and 28th in the Jacob Javits Center in New York City. We got plenty of time.
It's too close.
It's several weeks after PAX. I think we'll live. Plus, MC Chris is going to be there.
Oh, that helps me out a bit.
Yeah, you never actually saw him in concert. I'm curious if he's going to do...
MC Chris is the man.
The same set that he's done before, or if he's going to do something new.
He could do any set. He could just get up there and give me the finger and walk off, and I'll be satisfied.
But anyway, for one... The New York Anime Festival, we're going to be there. We're doing a ton of panels. We are doing the final, this is it is never going to be run again, Gekiga panel there, Saturday night, first off.
Yeah, we're only going to be there Saturday. We're not going to go Sunday or Friday.
So if you, for whatever reason, have heard of the infamy of the Gekiga panel that we've run at other conventions like Otakon or Katsucon, this is your last chance to see it. And I don't want to run it again because I don't want to get any more hate mail.
Yeah, we're going to start with, I think we decided we're going to come with new panels every year and then retire them. So if you go to any of the conventions we go to, odds are you'll get a chance to see most of the panels for the year, depending on what that convention wants. But we're not going to run any, say the same panel at the same convention 2 times. Now, we did actually, this is the one time where the rule is sort of being broken because I thought the Gekiga panel was retired, but The New York Anime Festival really wanted us to run it.
It was really
even
funny.
though we ran it last year
But
for
here's
them.
the thing, the Gekiga panel has like all these different levels. I mean, every con we're like, all right, we can run this anywhere from PG-13 to beyond the beyond.
Quintuple X.
And
Boom. Chemical X.
we ran it as the kind of PG-13, this is purely educational and not so much hilarious and not so much.
That was like a Friday morning panel too, wasn't it?
At the New York Anime Festival, and that's what they wanted. And apparently they heard tell of the epicness that was this panel at Otakon and Katsucon, and they asked us, all right, can you run the Otakon one here? And I said, no. We're willing, however, to run the Katsucon one there.
Yep.
I don't want to fly Gerald out to show us that thing again.
No, I don't want to see that thing again.
That was one of the worst things I ever seen.
It was also funny, but also the worst thing I ever seen.
I think that was the most offensive, and
It's
therefore...
like take the stinkiest poop in the world, but then put a smiley face sticker on it. It doesn't reduce the stinkiestness
Except
of
it wasn't poop, it was an eyeball.
That's all right.
And a tree. The tree was pretty good, though. I like the tree.
Yeah, we're going to do the tree.
We are going to do the tree.
All right.
Anyway, but there's other news about the New York Anime Festival, and this is the main reason I'm bringing this up, because there's plenty of time before the con to actually talk about the con, but Hideyuki Kikuchi is the creator of Vampire Hunter D. You may have heard of him.
I thought Yoshitaka Amano was the creator of Vampire Hunter D.
No, actually, this guy wrote the novel.
Ah, okay.
He created Vampire Hunter D. Amano just gave him...
So is his idea to put the eyeballs in the hand or the mouth in the hand?
I have never actually read the novel, so I don't know exactly.
I know it's for sale in English. Maybe you should buy it.
I should. I haven't read it. I don't know why.
All right.
But he's done a bunch of other stuff. I mean, he's done a lot of work. I don't want to get into all these things. Like, he did the original manga for, like, Wind of Amnesia, which
Ooh, I want to read that.
was a really good anime that suddenly turned pornographic.
Did it? I don't remember.
You realize that they showed it on Sci-Fi, and I was like, all right, but I rented it later to show my parents. I was like,
Wasn't
oh,
that
man.
the one that was all sort of pastel and kind of wiggly?
It was the one where, all right, humanity, aliens come down, take away all of mankind's memory. And the deal is, they're trying to test to see if mankind at its core is good or bad. And if they're good, great, memory's back. If they're bad, destroy the planet, move on.
Oh, well, that's not the one. I'm thinking of a different show that involved wind.
But then at the end, they all have sex.
Okay.
Yes. So I didn't see this coming. And my mom's watching it with me, and she's like, all right, I can... These cartoons aren't as weird as I thought. That's a nipple. This is why you watch these things. I'm like, Mom, no, I didn't know. I didn't know.
She didn't believe you for shit.
But he wrote a bunch of little stories and a bunch of other things. But one thing in particular that he wrote has never been published anywhere.
In English or Japanese?
In English or Japanese, in America or Japan.
Not even in moon language?
He was doing this conference in Japan, and he wrote a short story entitled The Wanderer's Ship. Afterward,
Yarr.
he gave the publishing rights to one of his fans, just because he's a really nice guy.
Wow, that's sort of crazy.
So one thing led to another.
Man,
and
if I was a crazy writer or something, I would like write little tiny things, create tiny works, and just give them out to fans and be like, you have the rights to this, you have the rights to this. That'd be crazy awesome.
So Yasue Hitomi, who had the rights, took it and gave the New York Anime Festival the right to publish it for the first time ever in the con book at the New York Anime Festival.
In the con book? Oh, man. Oh, man. No one's going to be throwing that shit away.
I'm real excited about this.
That's pretty good. Wow, I'm impressed.
The thing is, this is the kind of thing people who read the Anime News Network might have seen that headline and gone, no, the story is much more interesting than you might have thought.
Wow, that's pretty good. I'm suddenly, I read that headline and I was like, meh. But now you tell me the story and I'm like, oh, shits.
Yes, he will be at the convention.
I might take two of those
Him
things.
and Yoshitaka Amano are going to be together at the convention. In fact, he's having a birthday party there.
Whoa, it's the writer's birthday party?
Yes.
Man, I should get him to write a story and give me the publishing rights. And then get Amano to illustrate it. Then get the publishing rights to that. And then I won't have to work anymore.
Now, obviously, it is going to be published in Japan after the fact.
I'm sure.
But-
Japanese wouldn't stand for that.
I think this is really cool because
That is way cool.
especially since Vampire Hunter D in particular, that was the first anime I ever saw. That got me into anime. The reason I'm here talking about anime, the reason I go to these conventions, all of it.
It's because of a vampire with a mouth in his hand.
That mouth in the hand was the snarkiest, coolest, hippest mouth in a hand ever.
It was one of the only mouths in a hand ever.
There's been a couple more.
Man, we should make, I just thought, what if you had mouth in a hand, but also eyeball from Gitaro and Thing from Adam's Family and all the sort of body part creatures
You know
together.
what that's called? A person.
In a no, but like you have all those characters together and like a doujinshi.
You know, it could be like that Gonagai Chibi Kara world, except not stupid.
Exactly. Anyway, is that all you got to say?
That's all I got to say. So,
All right, well, as people may or may not know, all of the anime news that we can get because we speak English, it comes from AnimeNewsNetwork.com. And AnimeNewsNetwork.com has this habit of whenever the USA Today book list comes out, if there are any mangas on it, they tell you about it. So for many, many weeks, they'd be like, Naruto volume 29 is number 6 on graphic novels. Well, first, it was like, it's number 10 on the book list. Then it was number 3 on the graphic novels book list. And now there's no manga on the USA Today book list, not even the graphic novels book list anymore. So now they've resorted to saying, hey, you know what? Naruto Volume 30 is number 3 on the, direct market best-selling graphic novels.
great.
So that means in comic book stores, Naruto Volume 30 is number 3. So if you judge that, really that doesn't tell you anything about the manga market as a whole, but it tells you that the big hitting manga, their sales are decreasing relative to the sales of other graphic novels and other books in regular bookstores.
See, now this is why I feel like the time is ripe to take the weird stuff from Japan, the golf manga from Gona, all those sorts of things, and bring them out in America.
All right, now wait, I got 2 other sort of combined newses here. I don't think they tie in that much, but here we go. Ready? So Tsugumi Oba and Takeshi Obata, the creative team of Death Note, one of whom is an anonymous person who has only done Death Note.
It's totally L.
I know. And the other person is the person who created the art for Hikaru no Go and some other awesome things, right? They're making something new called Bakuman.
Uh-huh.
And it's actually, it's about making manga or something. But anyway, Bakuman, you can read it right now. But it's not in the store. It's also, there's probably I don't know if there's scanslations or not, but legally, you can read it right now. Because if you go to jumpland.com, which is the official, Shonen Jump kind of website, put up by Shueisha, the Japanese publisher of Shonen Jump, they have Bakuman available there digitally in English, French, German, and Japanese. And you basically download this file, and then you download the little reader, and you can read it in English.
Wait, so I need a file and a reader.
They give you the reader for free.
But why? I mean, what kind of format? I'm just curious.
It's some kind of weird file format. I downloaded it just before I came in this room, and I didn't actually open it yet, so I can't tell you what it's like.
Because I was curious if maybe it's like this reader is some sort of optimized for reading manga thing.
It might
what?
be, but Bakuman actually began in Shonen Jump in early August, so there are probably scanslations also that you can read if you don't like this particular reader. But you can. Here we go in English. Translated a manga that's coming out right now by a hit team, and it's in 4 languages: English, French, German, Japanese. This is a big move. Now, there's another similar big move that's going down, right? Yoshitoshi Abe, Serial Experiments Lane, you know him, also does some stuff in Robot. What?
That's an interesting way of putting that.
Yeah. He made a doujinshi. That's the one thing is that people don't seem to understand is that, doujinshi isn't just, I take Naruto and make it porn and put it out there.
That's only like 98% of it. I
Right,
mean,
that's only
seriously.
98%. Actual real creators, professional creators in Japan make doujinshi sometimes.
I mean, for example, I have, the Azumanga guy, Azuma, I have a doujinshi he did of Tenchi Muyo, and it's hilarious.
Right, and it's not always a fan, parody of an existing work. Sometimes it's an original thing. I mean, in the United States, right? Let's say I get a job for DC Comics and I'm the guy who makes Superman. I write it and I draw it, right? Let's say I'm Frank Miller. I wish, right? I'm doing Batman or something. If I just decide, to go and make some comic on my own, not for any company, just for myself, right? And put it out there, it's called Sin City in the United States. And someone picks it up and publishes it. But in Japan, if you're a professional, if you just go out and make something on your own, you don't have a publisher tell you to make it, or you don't put it in a manga magazine. You just sell it at Comiket. That's called a doujinshi, even if it's not parodying or using characters from existing works or anything. All right? So Yoshitoshi Abe made this doujinshi called Pochiyama at the Pharmacy. Pochiyama at the Pharmacy is 53 pages. And you can buy it in 20 countries in the iTunes App Store for $5 or equivalent. I bought it. I got it on the iPhone, and I tried to read it. And you know what? It's not. I didn't read more than a couple pages of it, so I can't tell you if the manga is good or not. What I can tell you is that the translation is terrible.
Really?
Oh, it's bad.
I was expecting this build-up to be that it's great and that this is the future.
The translation, it's like it might as well be bootlegs from Southeast Asia.
Even at a time like this?
Even at a time like this, it is a bad And the other thing about it, right, is basically it's the software that they've built this on. It seems like the way it works is they have the images, and you can zoom and pan, and that's all good. The images are fine. The text, the way it seems to work, my programmer's intuition, looking at the interface of a program and then determining how it works underneath, is that in addition to all these image files, they have text, and then they have, location on the page. And so the font of the text, it really doesn't fit in with the images around it. And it sort of crappily fits in the bubbles sometimes, and it sticks out, and it looks kind of dumb, and it's not so great. But 53 pages of manga for $5 on your iPhone or iPod Touch. He's trying something, And it actually, I read 2 pages of it, and there were some funny jokes in there because you can't understand what's going on, but it's just a little bit painful with the bad translation, at least into English. It's been translated into 19 other languages too, so who knows about those?
Man, what they probably did is they just translated from each language into every other language, and English was like the 8th one along the way.
Who knows? The point is they're adding a whole bunch of other mangas to the App Store in Japan.
Also with bad translations in America?
No, in Japan, but the other ones don't have translations, at least not yet. So, if you like Yoshitoshi Abe, which I do, if you want to spend,
I would wait if the translation's bad.
Yeah, if you want to spend $5 on a bad translation on your iPhone, go for it. I just did it mostly not because I actually wanted it, but because I wanted to report on it. It's like the same reason I just bought 4 SSH clients for the iPhone so I could report on which one was the best. One of them is useless. The other ones are all good and bad simultaneously.
So there's no one good one?
Not yet, but it looks like one of them is the next version is going to be the good one, but it's not out yet.
Anyway, enough of that. We should get right into things of the day so we can actually talk about Otakon for a while. So my thing of the day, luckily, is from Otakon. You see, the last panel we did, it wasn't actually our panel. It was, a front row crew panel, but it was Katsu doing his kendo panel. And Katsu does one hell of a kendo panel. He does it like every con we go to now, and it's always great. But there was some unfinished business with kendo, and maybe I was the undefeated vice president of the kendo club at RIT who had never actually attended a meeting and never actually accepted a challenge, and that ended, and I present to you the video of me dying.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, is he fast?
Is that it?
That's it. We have a better video of this. In fact, we have 2 videos of this, but someone else in the audience captured a 3rd video, and since it's already on YouTube, I figured I would just use it.
All right, so check this out. You go to websites, maybe our forums, maybe, Twitter, something else. And a lot of these sites now, especially the social networky sites, they need you to have an avatar. Maybe, it started with buddy icons and AIM, but now you need an avatar all over the place. And a lot of people don't have a good photo of themselves. So someone made this website, faceyourmanga.com. And it's basically an avatar generator. It's sort of like a me kind of thing where you choose eyes, choose nose, choose hair, but it makes a manga style you, and no matter what combination you pick, it looks really good, and it's really, really slick. It's like an amazing professional website. It's free to make an avatar on there. I think you can pay for some other shit, but whatever. Go there, faceyourmanga.com.
So, Otakon 2008. Now, we've realized it's often difficult for us to do our reviews or coverage of a lot of conventions because not so much Otakon, but like Kineticon or often Katsucon, we basically are staffed the whole time, and as a result, our perspective is kind of skewed toward the things we do. Because you see, when you really think about it, and this is something I didn't realize when I first started going to fan conventions, not just anime, but any sort of convention, that it's such a different experience depending on like where you are and what your function is and why you're there. I mean, if I'm a dealer and I go to an anime con, I have a completely different experience from a fan or from someone in the artist alley or from a guest or from a staffer or from a press guy or from a hobo out in the street.
Yep. I mean, listeners, most likely you are going to a convention as an attendee. You want to go to events, you want to go to the dealer's room, you want to go to things and experience them, then you paid to get in. Or maybe you go to Artist Alley and sit at a table for most of the con, but you still go around and experience stuff. We do something else, and it's very unlikely that you will be doing the thing that we did if you go to any of these conventions. So it's not really helping you to review the convention if we tell you what it was like for us, because that's not what it's going to be like for you. It's going to be completely different.
But at the same time, I remember that when I first realized, like I really realized this, and I became fascinated with it, was a friend of ours. They actually, they're dealers in a lot of the conventions, and we talked to them a lot. And we were in a con one day, and we used our press badges, and we got in early, and we're hanging out in the dealer's room talking to these people. And it was interesting, they were telling us about, loading and getting the dock set up and sitting in the dealer's room all day and dealing with a shoplifter and all the kind of details and stuff that you never even think of. You go to a con, it's a dealer's room. I'll buy that, and I'll buy that, and I'll buy this, and then, but actually talking to someone who sat there and did this completely different convention. We were both at the same convention for the whole weekend, and yet they basically were at a different convention. They were at the sit in a small box yelling at kids convention.
Yep. So we're going to try to do this Otakon review instead of just telling you what we did in chronological order, which is our typical convention review style. I mean, we've done 2 Otakon reviews in this style. If you like that style, you can go listen to the old ones, because really, if we did it for this one, it wouldn't be that much different. It would be different, but not that much different.
Well, it'd be different in regards that, in previous Otakons, we actually did a lot more things at the con as fans. I would go to panels to see what was going on and actually sit through them. I'd go to the rave and dance for like an hour. All the stuff that you're supposed to do at the con. Mm-hmm. We don't have time for that anymore.
No. So now we're going to try to review the con by telling you, we're going to go through all the different perspectives of people at the con and tell you what it was like from that perspective. And obviously some of those perspectives aren't ours, but we talked to people while we were there, and we can make educated guesses and all such and such and such. So let's start with the perspective of the special guests, the super people who come to the con, perhaps the musical guests.
Okay,
I have no idea what it's like to be them. They're super rich and famous, and everyone goes, eek!
Actually, having work staff at other cons, the way that works is pretty much you fly in, and you're picked up by a con staffer who, introduces you and drives you to the con, and they basically take care of you for the whole weekend, and then they make sure you get on your flight home.
Yeah.
If you're an American voice actor, you then proceed to go and get totally smashed, and then come back to the con drunk and sit on one of our panels randomly.
One thing I can definitely say, though, is that the special guests at this convention, or at least there were many special guests, but the most special of guests at this Otakon was Jam Project, the musical act. I think one of their members was missing, I'm not sure. And I didn't actually get to go to the concert because we had a panel during it. Otherwise, I would have gone. All right, so I don't know what it was like, but I heard only good things.
I can say this. There were a lot of people who were really, like, they either weren't aware of the concert, even though they were at the convention, or they're like, yeah, it's not really up my alley. And I actually spent much of Friday at all our panels and everything I could do telling people, look, go to the concert. Trust me. Oh, my God. It's in the arena. It's a real concert, live music. And every one of these people came back to our table at some point during the con the next day, basically saying, that was one of the best cons. Oh my God, I can't believe I was thinking of not going.
Yeah, it was surprising. I'd go to a panel and I'd say, who here's going to the concert tomorrow? And like not many people would raise their hands. I'd be like, what the hell is wrong with you? You don't have a panel to run during the concert. Why are you going to it? Don't come to my stupid panel. But we actually walked in on the Bandai Surprise panel. And the Bandai Surprise was Lucky Star shirts and Jam Project. And I was only in there for maybe a minute, but I could totally tell that Jam Project was living it up and hanging loose. And they were just, oh man, they totally, there is no doubt that they had a wicked awesome time and they were just letting it all hang out.
Well, because they did a full concert in the arena. And the thing is, before Laruku came a few years ago, and they did a full concert in the arena. And I remember that they had a crazy awesome time, and that was like the best thing ever for them. And these arena concerts, I know, are very taxing on the Otakon staff and on the Otakon budget and everything, but at the same time, they're so amazing. And I think more than anything else, these are starting to really make Otakon stand out as like the ultimate anime convention.
Yep. I mean, TMR sent a special message to Otakon, which the staff read to us at, I think, the closing ceremonies.
I don't have the text in front of me.
Times,
it basically was like, yeah, you guys are awesome. I had a good time. I want to come back someday. OMG, LOL.
Yeah, he's a cool dude, that TMR.
Yeah, he is.
All right.
So what are we going to start with? I mean, we already said everything about the guest, and there's the low-level guest, but it's not that different, except people don't cater to your every whim, and usually you disappear, and then they're looking for you.
Let's talk about the Artist Alley, because we do spend a lot of time in the Artist Alley, because we had a table there.
I mean, I remember I'd go to early cons, and I'd be amazed that I had friends who would, like, show up at a con, and Thursday they'd set up in their Artist Alley, and they would stay at their Artist Alley table through the entire con, and then go home.
And they wouldn't go to anything, and I'd be like, oh, how could you not go to anything?
So, for one, Otakon's Artist Alley was handled magnificently this year.
As usual.
I mean, the staff are all right there and together. Everything was organized. There was not a single problem with it at all.
You go up, you sign up, they get your table, everything's set. You can set up your stuff on Thursday, nice and easy. You have plenty of time. Everything's all good in terms of setting your stuff up and doing your business.
And the thing is, it seemed this was the biggest and best Artist Alley I've ever seen at an Otakon.
They've packed, the way they arranged those tables allowed for more actual seats and tables than ever before.
And at the same time, they eliminated the only problem with last year's Artist Alley was that there were too many people in it and you couldn't walk around.
Yep.
This year, the aisles were just big and like they spread it out just enough to where it was perfect.
It was really nice.
And also the quality of the art every year just staggers me. I mean, I cannot believe some of these people that are just sitting in the Artist Alley.
Yeah. There was one thing is that it seemed like a lot of the booths there they seemed to be all the same thing. Like picture of a character and a gigantic print that was really on shiny glossy paper with shiny glossy printing.
Yeah, it seemed like the problem
there
was
were like
that
at least 10 booths like that.
Those particular booths, and luckily they were the minority. I mean, most of the stuff there was either really interesting fan art or really good original art or just a lot of neat stuff. One guy in the back was just live DJing through the whole thing, but those particular people, it's like that fan art is almost, I don't want to say obsolete, but I mean, it's good art, but it doesn't really add anything to the character. It's not like it's special. It's just a good rendition of the character as though you would see in official merchandise.
The stuff, it's like XKCD, right? XKCD has no graphical art to it that's, quality. Well, it's not bad, but it's stick figures. It is.
They're better stick figures than I can draw.
It has something to it in its content in addition, that in a lot of this art there, a lot of these super glossy prints that these booths has art graphically, but it doesn't have anything below the surface. There's no heart in it. There's no life in it. There's no content. It's just a rendering of the character that's shiny. And it's not so exciting. But that's maybe 10 booths at most. And most of the booths were not those. But it was still kind of weird to see, so many, because it's hard. No matter where you look, there would be one booth like that. Because there are hundreds of booths in Artist Alley. But there would be one booth like that no matter where you looked. And it was kind of like,
Yeah, and I really want to give shout outs, but I don't have time, and I have a list, but there were a lot of cool people in that alley that we met.
All right, the one shout out I do want to give.
You're going to give it to the Radish Mart, aren't you?
Oh, you knew I was going to give it to the Radish Mart.
But I bought something from the Radish Mart. You
did?
not.
What did you
Yes,
buy?
I bought a bookmark.
Oh, right, you did.
It's a really good bookmark, too. It's
So
got
there-
the young radish, the older radish, and the rotten radish.
So check it out. There's this one girl, and she set up this booth that was the Radish Mart, and she was just selling like stuffed radishes and bookmarks with pictures of radishes on them. It wasn't really anything, complicated, but the setup of the booth was like, it was like, oh my gosh. And she was wearing this costume of Radish Mart merchant, and it was all these radishes, and she had these buckets, like
It's
little
so
wooden
cute.
barrels, and
Plus, the thing is,
around the corner was fake Radish Mart.
well, Fake Radish Studios, because the deal is the artist there, we talked to a lot of these people, and the story was that an anagram of her name is Fake Radish, which gave her the idea to have Fake Radish Studios and then a Radish Mart.
The Radish Mart booth was just so, I mean, I don't need a stuffed radish, but the Radish Mart booth makes you want one.
Desperately. They're really high quality, too. Like, if you want a stuffed radish, I can't think of a better place to go.
But I mean, just the presentation of the booth. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I mean,
my
I walked
gosh.
around, I looked at every table, most of the art there was amazing.
Yeah. Oh, the art show. The art show. The art show every year is basically, instead of selling an art at your table, you can put it in the art show to have someone buy, they auction, this is a silent auction. And then at the end, if something gets 7 bids, it goes to the live auction on Sunday.
Now, granted, that a lot of people will put something in the art show nominally to sell it, but mostly to get people to see it and then find them in the artist alley and buy prints.
Yep. It works both ways.
I love the art show, and this year actually was better than last year.
It was much better than last year.
It was a good art show. There was a lot of really interesting stuff in there.
And for the first time, I won something in the art show.
yeah,
Yeah.
Scott bought this really cute thing. What's it from?
I think it's from something called I didn't know it was from something until after I bought it, and there was a URL on the bottom of it. But it's just basically it's a painting on a little canvas. It's square, and it's of something called the Hat Pyre, which I guess is a vampire that wears a top hat. But it's basically this little hat pyre, and he's swimming, and there's like a big squid, and it's just sort of like yay, and it's the kind of painting you would hang up in the bathroom because it's just sort of watery and happy.
And
it was $15.
Despite all the good art in there, I have to mention, as always, the adult content area, because last year there was a grand total of one thing in there, and that thing was the Rod of Light, which was basically a crudely drawn penis on a piece of lined paper highlighted.
It was good times.
And it had a bit of $1. And I remember last year on my Otakon coverage, I basically said, it would be hilarious if we took turns bidding it up so that it had to go into the auction.
That would be great.
Well, this year, I went in there to see. I was curious if there's
But
anything
you gotta
in there
go
at
in
all.
for the lulls. You don't go in to act for serious. You go in for lulls.
And also for another reason, I wanted to prove something to myself that I'll talk about after this, because I noticed a trend in the artist alley that is very heartening to me.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, I walk in there, and the first thing I'm confronted with is actual pornography, as in someone took a picture of themselves, many pictures of themselves. I don't know. I mean, I guess it wasn't against the rules, and I'm sure the only reason it was in there is because what would be worse than taking pictures of yourself and trying to sell it in an artist alley at a convention? Being denied that privilege.
Yeah.
But at the same time, a little frightening.
It was pretty scary. It wasn't super scary. You'll easily find worse on the internets because, it's the internets. Everything is on there. But it was kind of disturbing to see it in there. It's like someone took pictures of themselves in, so it had nothing to do with geekery at all. It was just someone took naked pictures of themselves in sort of scary
I could have
positions.
understood if it was cosplay, but
Yeah.
it wasn't.
It was just scary bondage, whatever.
But while my horrification disappeared when I looked one step to the right and saw the Dracula penis,
the Dracula penis.
which was in the same vein as the Rod of Light from the previous year. It was probably by the same person, but I have to say, very, 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 very,
Dracula
very,
penis is the win.
it was bid all the way up, and it went into the auction. I need to find the staffer who did the auction and find out what came of that.
Oh, really? Oh,
It was
man.
bid all the way up, and you could see it was two people. I don't know if they were inspired by us or if just the idea of getting that into the auction is so overpowering that you just can't resist
That
it.
is one thing, is that the Otakon auction is not perfectly silent, because you basically works with these barcode stickers. It works really well. You put the sticker on the bidding thing, and it says bidder number like 1010, and then you write in the dollar amount. But someone can look at the bidding list and see, 1010, 2222, 1010. They know that both of those bids are the same person, and thus the auction is not perfectly silent.
Which is fine, because it allows the Dracula penis to make it to the art auction.
Yes.
And there were actually, it was about 50-50 back there, actual pornography versus just kind of hilarious things that are obviously
There was
there to
a
make fun of
sequel to
people.
The Rod of Light.
Yes, there
We've
was.
spent too much time talking about
We
that.
have, but here's the point I wanted to make. The main reason I went back there was to see if this trend of, I don't know, it seems like there was almost a backlash against the yaoi BS that has been pervading anime conventions for the past several years. Because there was less of that garbage, to put it bluntly, in the Artist Alley this year than there has ever been. I mean, it was there. There were some slashy things. There were some BL things, but a lot of it was lighthearted, ironic, or funny, or actually very artistic. And there was very little of that kind of scary, you go to a lot of artist alleys and you just see people just porn. And in the dealer's room, porn. But this year, even in the dealer's room, not nearly so much porn. And that yaoi guy wasn't yelling nearly as much as he usually does.
I don't think he was yelling at all. At least I didn't. I only went to the dealer's room once.
Yeah, I didn't hear him yell at all. I was very thankful because I have horrible memories of being in the dealer's room and hearing that guy yell and then hearing girls scream just all day.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems like it's coming around and people are kind of sick of that stuff. It was a fad. I'm so happy that it was a fad.
Well, the Artist Alley kicked ass for, people buying as well as people selling. It was totally awesome all around.
To talk about the perspective of people sitting behind a table, we noticed something interesting. There's another trend that I didn't quite expect. By and large, people do not buy prints of things anymore.
Well, not a lot.
No, just compared
They
to
do.
what
I
they
mean, I
used
bought
to.
one, but they're not as much as they used to.
But back in the day, I remember people would bring, 50, 60 prints of something and sell out. And I don't know if it's because of digital media, because most of this art is available on people's DeviantArt sites now. If, maybe it's the RIT Anime Club wall scroll syndrome where we broke our local economy. We had the golden ticket raffles where we would give away wall scrolls to members, and eventually all the hardcore members of the anime club had wall scrolls on every free space of wall in their dorm room, and thus did not want to win another wall scroll. Maybe people just ran out of space. I have no idea, but by and large, and I talked to a lot of artists and they all said the same thing. People are not buying prints as much as they used to. What they are buying is social currency. If you have a sticker or a button or something that you can carry around or put on your badge or wear, a t-shirt, something that shows off your geekery, something you can say, check me out, I'm a fan of Naruto.
Cell phone charms, necklaces, anything that is wearable, placeable, doable, usable, anything like that, then people are buying it. If it's a print, what can people do with it? They put it in a folder to bring it home, then they put it in a frame, maybe in their house. It's not really doing it in terms of the social.
I think what's really happened is that back when I used to go to anime conventions, if I saw a print or a piece of art in an artist alley that was really clever, like, wow, that's hilarious, or wow, that's really good, I would buy it mostly to show to other people and for the novelty of it. And it's like, check this out. And I'd show it to people. But seriously, nowadays, I can just go to whoever's DeviantArt and see everything.
Yeah, or if I see something at like an artist alley that's really clever, a lot of times it's clever things, the art quality is not so great. Like I saw there was was it a Snoopy Evangel? It was a Snoopy Lord of the Rings mashup, I think I saw. And I basically just said, hey, look at that, and pointed it out to people I knew who were also in the artist alley, and thus there was no need to actually have it and bring it to show anybody.
So I guess people, if you're in the artist alley and you want to sell stuff, bring your art will sell. And also, it's not so much about selling anymore, because a lot of people, what they told me was that, yeah, people didn't buy prints, but they took business cards, and I made a bunch of friends, and we traded a bunch of art.
Yeah,
a lot of people
art.
Were trading prints,
Yep.
But not actually buying and selling prints.
That's a lot of people do at Mocha, is they trade their mini comics. That's always good times.
Yep. But if you want to sell stuff in an artist alley, you've got the clever idea or the print, bring your prints, make a bunch of friends. But if you actually want to make money, You have to make the clever social currency, the clever t-shirt, the space makeout button, the things that in some way people will buy them because they can show off to other people at the con.
All right. So for an attendee, that's the most important one, right? What was it like there? Well,
I guess we should start with the reg line.
Yeah,
because
the reg
Otakon
line
has like the best reg lines of any convention ever.
yeah. The reg line was a little bit weird on Thursday in that, it didn't, usually it flies. Like there'll be no line after like a couple hours. There was actually a little bit of a line after a couple hours.
But then again, not that much of a line. It was still a real quick.
It was very quick, but it wasn't stupid quick. It was it was definitely quick enough.
I didn't
enough.
actually verify this with anyone, but my guess is that over the years, more and more people are showing up Thursday night.
Yep.
Because there were a lot of people hanging out around the con Thursday night.
Way
a lot
too many.
more than last year.
And at the front of the reg line, it was the same guy, the army guy at the front of the reg line from last year. He didn't die.
Yeah, remember the guy who we showed up? We asked him why he was in line, and his answer was basically that he was shipping out to Iraq the next day, but he wanted to be at Otakon and be the first one in just because he loves Otakon so much.
Yep, I didn't actually get to go talk to him, but I did see him from afar, and other people said he was there, and, I have to take their word for it.
Now, the only issue, really, with Reg, panel registration, all those sorts of things was fine, but because we were pressed, too, this is delving into us a little bit, they had the special needs line, but the special needs line was basically for anyone with an issue. Anyone who couldn't just, walk up, here's my pre-reg, give me my badge. They had to go into the special needs line. Now, the idea was you can skip the real line and then have your problem dealt with. But because everyone with a problem was in that line, they didn't have a lot of staff over there. They had a few staff who were very hardworking, but I think they needed another special needs booth. We got in that line because our press thing way back told us, yes, you have to go into this line, which we found out later we could have just not gotten into that line.
Yeah.
But that's fine. A staffer came and saved us. He pulled us out and got us our badges. But we got into that line, skipping the entire outside line. Our friends with pre-reg badges got into the giant outside line. Within a short span, we saw them and their line get into the building, get up, get their badges, and leave. Meanwhile, we had moved 4 feet.
Yeah, it was not good. Not good in the special needs line. The special needs line needs 2 or 3 booths instead of 1 booth.
See, my only
it.
real concern is that if I had been, someone who had a medical condition and, the idea was I can't stand in this line. I need my badge. Help me out. It was faster to stand in the real line than it was to get into the special needs line.
Yeah, that's a problem.
But that was the only complaint I could see. Other than that, Thursday night was super smooth. Plus, people who had Otakon badges could go see a screening of, I think it was Tropic Thunder, a movie in the area.
Yeah.
And that seemed to go real well. A lot of people were real excited about that. It gave people something to do.
It's on Thursday.
Yeah, it's a good tie-in. And a lot of people say they want a 4-day con again. And I'm sure Jim Voles, if he's listening to this right now, about had a heart attack at the mere mention of that. But if Otakon does this again, make a deal with the area, have local venues do stuff that is not directly related to Otakon. But, hey, if you have an Otakon badge, happy hour at the local bar. Hey, if you have an Otakon badge, there's a concert down at the power plant Thursday night. Something like that. The con doesn't have to do any at-con work. They only have to do pre-con work. And it seems like it worked really well with this thing this year, and I really hope Otakon's able to pull off bigger things next year.
Yeah, just get places to say, anyone with an Otakon badge, special shit for you on Thursday. And it can be totally awesome. I think that's something that other cons should work towards also, is getting places in the area to do special things for anyone with a badge, the day before, the day after, anything like that.
Yep, because, we actually ran into Daryl.
I know, for an example, PAX, I just realized looking at the PAX schedule, PAX doesn't begin until 2 p.m. Friday. The Seattle area around the convention center should do stuff for PAX people with their badges before 2 p.m. on Friday. Why not?
But granted, Otakon did it. It worked. I hope they do it again in the future. So, Friday, actually the regular reg line was gigantic. There were a lot of people. I'll tell you right now, the number this year was like 26,000 something. But beyond that, the general con, actually, unlike previous years, crowd control was very little of a problem compared to what has been in the past. It was very easy to get around the con for once, and it didn't seem like they needed as many staffers pushing people around.
Yeah, they maintained the same layout as last year, utilizing the area in the front under the reg for the dealer's room exit. But in addition, they opened up the doors in the back of the artist alley to use that as an additional entrance exit. So you could actually...
was brilliant.
It was awesome.
Because one, that was an in and out for the artist alley, and there was the other main entrance for the artist alley. But it was only the exit to the dealer's room. You couldn't enter the dealer's room from back there unless you were a dealer or press or something. So as a result, people would, the dealer's room is crazy crowded and gigantic, and people are in there. They're coming out, and they're kind of funneled into this extra space, thus keeping them out of the rest of the con. And, people can hang out there and chill. There are extra bathrooms back there, which was real important. But then, hey, since you're here, here's the artist alley, and it just kind of funneled these people. There's a constant stream of people coming into the artist alley from the back, walking all the way through the tables and going out the front, the whole con. And as a result, the main issue here, the back of the artist alley was rocking. The people who were stuck in the back corner had just as much traffic as the people in the front.
Yeah, no longer was it, back of the artist alley, no one's going to see me, chirp, chirp, cricket, cricket. It was back of the artist alley. Oh, yeah, better than the middle. Right. The other thing was I was using the artist alley as pretty much a shortcut to get under most of the con because it had an entrance on one side and an exit on the other side. So I could go both ways through the artist alley rather than going upstairs through the crowds walking in the hallways to get from one side to the other.
Now, the dealer's room, if you've never been to an Otakon before and you've never listened to our previous shows about an Otakon, you can go to them to hear all about it. But basically, the dealer's room at Otakon is bigger than you're imagining. And whatever you're thinking about right now, it's bigger than that. It is gigantic. It is bigger than most conventions.
Think of the size of 3 Best Buys, and it's all anime store. That's what the Otakon dealer's room is like.
And it was actually, I think it was better than last year in a lot of ways too. The dealers had a lot more stuff. There was a lot more variety. There were fewer porn peddlers. And while there were a lot of those sword dealers, there didn't seem to be nearly as many as there were last year.
Yeah, there were also lots of people actually selling lots of DVDs and lots of manga at decent prices and with a lot of pretty good selection. I
actually bought I bought all of Nadeshiko for like $30.
Well, that's the other thing is that there was since all the companies are sort of going downhill, there was lots of blowouts on stuff. You can get basically ADV leftovers, wicked cheap, lots and lots of slim case boxes. It was pretty much, oh man, if you had money at Otakon and you wanted anime stuff, you were going to be in good time. And I saw stuff that wasn't on the internets. It wasn't so good maybe for the robot buying, but for the manga DVD buying, it was right up there with the awesomes.
Yeah, the only thing I really didn't see that I kind of wanted, and I don't know why, because I see him less and less, was I had a really nice Utena pin that I used to always put on my lapel pretty much anywhere I went. Dressed up nice. I always had a little Utena pin. And I eventually lost it because, those things wear out. I could not find anywhere in that dealer's room high-quality pins. There were a lot of...
a Masato pin.
Yeah, there was. And while the art was high quality, the actual manufacturing quality of that pin was very low, and I suspect that it was a bootleg. I highly suspect.
Most of those are.
Yes, but you used to be able to get... This is my only gripe, and it's not a gripe with Otakon. It's just a gripe with anime dealers. What can I do? I should just buy it online, but I could not find high-quality pins anywhere.
Yeah.
But of course, all the cool people were in there. There's always the table selling the old, Leiji Matsumoto movie posters.
It's that same guy every year.
And every year I say, wow, I really want that Arcadia of My Youth poster. Wow, it's $70.
Every year he has that same non-bootleg wall scrolls of Ranma hanging up there for hundreds of dollars, and he never sells them, but there they are.
And I always want them.
I can always go over there and say, hey, you see that? Yeah, that's a real wall scroll. You're not going to see any others like that around here. These are all bootlegs. Yes, even those that every single booth is selling, all bootleg.
Or they're American. It's a tricky subject.
Yeah.
But we don't really need to get into that. I mean,
we don't.
Let's just say that wall scrolls in America are not quite held to the same standard as wall scrolls were in Japan.
No. But as for while we're talking about what it's like to shop in the dealer's room, basically, if you've never had access to anime goods before and you don't buy stuff online,
you'll have a nerdgasm. Oh my god.
Oh my god. If you're a dealer, right? Mad money's raking it in. I saw people buying stuff all over the place. It was not it seemed like everyone walking around the con had some bag with something in it. we interviewed actually people sitting at the front of the dealer's room line because we were like, why are people waiting? Why do people wait in the dealer's room line every year? Do you really need to get in there right away? Is something really going to sell out that you want so desperately?
And their answer, almost everyone we talked to, their answer was basically, yes, I want this thing. It sold out last year. I'm not going to miss it again.
I can't buy it online because it's hard to import. It's too expensive. The prices are higher, the shipping costs, whatever. I'm buying the dealer's room. And a lot of the people wanted like import video games and stuff like that. So import video games are big money. Someone was making money in the dealer's room.
And a lot of people were selling import video games.
Mm-hmm.
Which tells me something really interesting. Now think of this. The anime industry is basically collapsing in the United States. Yet the industry around it is largely thriving. I mean, you go to that dealer's room and more money probably changed hands there than went into ADV's coffers last year.
Yeah, I know. If you look, the video games with anime characters in them are probably selling better than the DVDs with those same anime characters in them. It's kind of crazy.
But, I mean, people were buying stuff like crazy. And people were buying like $70, $80, $90 imported video games that they could probably, if they wanted to, pirate.
Probably.
The fact that they're buying them is really interesting to me. And it really starts to hurt the idea that piracy is the only thing destroying the anime industry.
Yep. There's also someone near the front of that line who went to RIT. They were like, yeah, I went to a really nerdy school. We're like, was it RIT? They're like, yeah.
No, but it was funny because we're like, was it RIT? And he stopped. He's like, yeah, it was.
And we're like,
how did you
RIT?
know?
What's up?
And I'm like, yeah, I was the president of your anime club. And he's like, I'm in that anime club.
Yep.
Thank God, though, he didn't know who I was. It's finally, there's a generation at RIT who don't know who the hell I am. I'm done. I'm gone.
Actually, RIT was representing pretty strong at the Otakon. I saw at least 2 people with RIT shirts, and then add in the people that said RIT that weren't actually wearing any RIT stuff.
A lot of people came up to our table in the artist alley and were like, yeah, blah, 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 RIT anime. And I was like, word to your mother.
Yeah, do you know these people that they were like the last people I met before I never went to Rochester again? And I'm like, yeah, I know them. Those are the last people I met that were from the anime club before.
Yeah, people come up and like, yeah, I was there when so-and-so was president. I'm like, yeah, well, I was the president before the person, before the person, before that person.
Yeah. Good times.
Yeah, but I really want to get into, I don't want to go forever on this review, but let's talk a little bit about panels. Now, last year, Otakon had some trouble with the panels department. You can listen to our review, and we talked all about what happened. But this year, the panels people, particularly Omar and Meredith, they had their act together to a degree that was frightening. Otakon put on, as far as I could see, and from what everyone that I talked to said, the best panels as a whole that they have ever had.
In terms of quality and perhaps quantity. I mean, well, I don't know. I've seen conventions that have more panels technically. Like that New York Comic Con had technically like 200-something panels. It's ridiculous. But the quality of the panels was outstanding.
Now,
every single panel before our panels, every single panel I walked in on, every last one was like top tier quality of panel.
I mean, look, we did Anime You Should See on Friday, right? Early morning, like at noon. We walked in, during the panel before it. Dubs That Time Forgot.
That was Mike Toole.
That
Quite
panel
excellent.
Was amazing. Oh my God.
And we only saw 10 minutes of it, but I knew it was amazing. And afterwards, I was like, oh, you're Mike Toole, that awesome guy. No wonder.
Yeah, and like every panel, there's this panel on Samurai and Ninja that was right before one of our other panels. It's also amazing. And I went around with the kind of the press pass and I poked my head into all the full panels to see what was going on. And every single panel I laid eyes on was extremely well put together.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that, as we said, was that Otakon, the staff, they were really good about weeding out panelists who either wouldn't do a good job or wouldn't be professional. They made panelists check in, they made sure the panelists were there who were going to do their panel. And that worked, with the only exception, I think, was this Toho panel that apparently a lot of people wanted to go to and the panelists didn't run, and there was some minor debacle there. But other than that, the panels were fantastic.
Yep. Another thing, there was this Rakugo guy. Let's talk about him for a minute.
Yes, this was more of an event than a panel. Now, Rakugo is this traditional form of Japanese comedic storytelling.
Yes, basically it's sit-down comedy instead of stand-up comedy. Now, this guy sits on a pillow, right? He kneels on it, and he has a fan and some chopsticks, right? And
No, he has a fan and a towel.
oh, fan and a towel.
he
You're
does
right.
not have chopsticks.
Right, he folds the fan together and it becomes chopsticks.
He fooled you, I see.
He did. He has a fan and a towel, and he sits on this pillow, kneels on it, and while he sits there, he tells you a story. And it's always a hilarious story.
Now, the cool thing is, I mean, this is a traditional Japanese art, and you can read all about it, but the man who performed at Otakon was sent basically by the Japanese government. He travels the world because he speaks English. So he does this traditional Japanese comedic art form in English for American audiences, and he goes around the world spreading Rakugo and showing people, check this out. And it was super awesome.
It was so great. There's one criticism of it is that he had this big panel and it was so great, but he spent a lot of the panel teaching what Rakugo was rather than actually doing Rakugo. He only did full-on Rakugo and actually telling funny stories for maybe like the last 5-10 minutes of the panel, and I just wish he would have done that the whole time. People get it. You know, you don't have to spend half the panel telling us what you're going to do. It's like, you don't see a hockey player come in and say, oh, well, I'm going to hit the puck into the goal. It's like, no, just do it. I'll figure it out.
See, the thing is, I mean, he came to Otakon not really knowing what to expect. And he was trying to figure out how to do this, how to actually get people.
I understand why he did it that way. But on the other hand, it's like, okay, we get it. You know?
But he still did a really good job. And
he was amazing.
He's going to be performing, I forget when, I'll have to look it up again. I'll let you guys know in the forum. In New York City, sometime in the near future.
As well as some other cities in the U.S.
And I'm going to find out if he's doing just like a full normal act, because if that's the case, you can bet your butt that we're going to be there.
Oh, man.
But I'm
sad I forgot the guy's name. I don't have the con book on me.
The thing that really made me happy was that, you know, we walked over about a half hour, 45 minutes before the event was going to start because they had a seating time, a lineup time. The line for this was insane.
The panel filled up, and it was in one of the bigger panel rooms.
To the point that the line went all the way down one hallway, and then they cut it off and formed a new line that went all the way down the other hallway, and then they had people at both ends telling people not to line up. It was already full.
It was the second biggest panel room, and it was full up 100%.
See, I'm sure there was worry. I mean, what if people don't come? What if this was all a big waste? Are people interested in this? And I'm very heartened by you anime fans for the fact that you all really thought this would be cool and wanted to see it. And the fact that everyone seemed to get it, everyone seemed to enjoy it. And I'll admit, sadly, the only reason we were able to get in is because we had our press passes. Otherwise, by the time we got there, we couldn't have gotten into this thing.
Yeah, and that was actually something that was the one problem that I noticed that was the biggest problem at the convention this year. And if that's the biggest problem, you know, not too bad.
The biggest problem is that things are too popular and there's too many people.
Things at this convention, you know, they use 100% of the space. They can't use any more of it. And many of the things that are happening were just too popular. And people would line up for things well before they were over. And sometimes they would clear the room out. Sometimes they wouldn't.
Now, despite a few people tried to complain about this at the feedback session, but Otakon actually makes it very clear. They only clear out the room before an event if they have scheduled hey, we're clearing out the room before this event.
Or if it's an 18-plus event that follows a non-18-plus event. Then they clear the room also.
For obvious reasons.
Yes. But otherwise, they don't clear the room, which I guess is an okay policy, because the problem with clearing the room is this. You clear the room. Let's say you clear the room. That means the people who are waiting in line for the event get to go in and they're going to get a seat, whatever seat they want. That's kind of good. The problem is, what if people really did want to see 2 events in a row? Now they're fucked. They can't possibly see the second event because they're not in line. They're going to get kicked out of the room while they're in it, sent to the back of the line, and they're screwed. That's not really so great because usually similar events are scheduled next to each other because it makes sense.
But I mean, really, you can't, it's not a thing you can really complain about because there's really nothing that can be done about it other than having a lot fewer panels and having spaces between them and staggering it out. But that doesn't really serve Otakon's purposes at all.
No, it doesn't. So the other solution, never clear the room. Okay, so now I'll just camp out in this room, see 2 panels I don't care about, just so I'll be in a good seat for the third panel, which I do care about, which is going to be crazy crowded.
Now, basically, if they clear the rooms out all the time, half of Otakon will complain. If they don't clear the rooms out, the other half will complain.
It's a no-win situation.
Luckily, it's a moot point because I actually got a chance. I walked over and I looked around the new wing of the convention center. It is gigantic. It is connected via a skyway, like just from, you know where the rave is? There's like a skyway that goes across the street to the rest of the convention center. And I'm not sure exactly how Otakon is going to be using this space, but believe me when I say that I'm going to be following up with them and talking to them to find out what they're going to do, because that space is going to allow them to... I think next year's Otakon is going to transcend all Otakons previous in terms of layout, in terms of function, in terms of lines, because there's so much more space.
Yeah.
They can do so much. Like,
I think it'll be 2 years from now that'll be transcendent, because I think they need a year to learn to use the space properly.
True.
You
But
know, the first year it'll still be great because they'll be using this extra space, but in the second year they'll realize fully how to use the space most efficiently.
But the staff has already been doing walkthroughs, and it's looking to shape up pretty nicely. There's that whole new hotel, the Hilton, right there, kind of connected to this thing. Apparently, there's 1 million panel rooms in there. I don't know what they'll do. I got a lot of crazy ideas, but maybe I'll save all that for a future show. What I would do if I had any say in how Otakon is run.
Right. But yeah, there were some events that were very difficult to get into, even if you lined up well in advance.
For example, there was a Phoenix Wright kind of like... It was basically a long cosplay skit that these people wanted to do as an event. You know, they were all in costume, and they kind of acted out a Phoenix Wright trial. The line for this thing was already larger than basically, people waited for 2 hours and still didn't get into this event.
Yeah, and it was the largest panel room. The room filled up. We went in with our press badges to see what was going on. It was pretty corny, to be honest, what was going on up there. It felt like it could have been good if they put more effort into it and were a little more professional and clean and more prepared. But
at the same time, it was weird because half the crowd seemed to be really, really digging it. But there were other people there who were just kind of playing on their DS, and they were kind of walking out. And I looked in the Picto chat, and it was basically just penises. Picto chat's not useful for anything. But
yeah. But anyway, it was still pretty amazing that, hey, there's this huge panel. Oh my gosh.
And I feel like with new space and with, Otakon could have a lot of events like that.
And I imagine if you put a Phoenix Wright trial and then something else equivalently appealing to the audience in another place simultaneously, I think that would solve a lot of the problems.
Yup.
Of lining up for things. But mostly what the problem, the things we had to wait in line for that were problematic were the live action 18 plus showings that happened on Friday and Saturday night.
Let's talk a little bit about the showings. Video rooms, whatever. I don't really watch stuff, but the live action Asian cinema, and in classic Otakon fashion, they did in fact have the Asian tasteless movies late at night in Video 5.
Yep. Let's see. The movies were Tokyo Gore Police, which is I didn't see it, but the people who did see it said it was very nice with the many gores.
A lot of people said it was the best of the tasteless movies.
So sad because I didn't see that one. There was a movie. The one after that was.
Don't you have it pulled up?
Oh, no, the one before it I think was Bohachi Bushido, which is based on a Kazuo Koike manga.
Now, the only reason I didn't stay. This is the only complaint I personally had with Otakon was that in some of the video rooms, the subtitles were too low on the screen, so you could not read them unless you were in the front row.
Because, it's obvious there's no stadium seating. Obvious. It's just a bunch of chairs laid out flat with the projector in the aisle. Okay, you can't fix that. But you can aim the projector higher, because it's a widescreen movie. We don't need black at the top of the screen. Just aim it higher. You can use the remote control to do it, and everyone will be able to see the subtitles.
Yep. Sadly, I talked to the tech guys. I was like, hey, can you do something? And they said no. So I talked to an Otakon staffer. He's like, no.
We're not.
So,
well, some people aren't allowed to touch the projector. You need someone who's allowed to touch it.
yes, and the people
who
who
are allowed to touch it
it
leave earlier. They're not there, 11 o'clock at night.
But regardless, that movie actually looked really good.
We just couldn't stay there for more than 15 minutes because not being able to read the subtitles through the person in front of me's head was not worth it.
It started out weird and scary, and actually in the beginning I almost wanted to walk out because I thought it was going to be really kind of disgusting and tasteless and not in the good way. But then, there's a twist about 10 minutes in, and that made the movie go from scary and perverted to hilarious and amazing.
It was totally, you could tell right away, it was all Kazuo Koike. He only wrote the manga that it was based on, but it had a strong influence on the movie. Super strong.
I had an idea because, but I'll admit, this is the one time in the entire convention where I slightly abused my press pass.
All right.
Because the line to get in to see this movie was crazy. So I walk up and we're like, hey, we're pressed. We'd like to cover this event. And the staffer stops. He says, wait a minute. You want to cover a really violent, tasteless movie that we're showing at this con late at night?
Mm-hmm.
And I said, yes. And he stands there and he says, that's the most awesome thing I've heard all night. Go right in.
Yeah, it's good times.
So I stood in the front of the room, and as people walked in, I walked around. I asked people, do you know what this movie is? I kind of interviewed all these people around the room, and half the audience was like, "This is some Kazuo Koike thing." Oh my god! And the other half were like, "I don't know. I'm just here." So I started explaining to people who didn't know what this movie was and who Kazuo Koike was and all that business, and they were really interested. And actually, a few people the next day came up to me at the Artist Alley and were like, man, I went Kazuo Koike and I looked up and you guys should do that at more video showings. And what if, this is a crazy idea. This is the kind of thing that would need a lot of dedicated volunteers because there's no way Otakon could provide staff to do this. What if you had showing rooms, maybe not all of them, but select showings that had an MC where instead of just people file in, you show a film, it's people file in, someone is up at the front of the room. They talk for maybe 5-10 minutes about what you're about to see. They explain, this is directed by so-and-so, or this is a Kazuo Koike based on this movie. If you don't know who Kazuo Koike is, Lone Wolf and Cub and such, oh my God. And just kind of do a short, really quick panel, 10 minutes at most, about the movie, and then give some context, and then let people watch the movie, and then after the movie, have a short discussion, and then let everyone go.
Yeah, I definitely think that certain video showings, especially showings of, videos that have a history to them or, there could be definitely be enhanced by some sort of MC briefing the audience before or after the showing.
Now, even better, look at the anime showing rooms, which honestly, I feel as though anime showing rooms are an artifact, a holdover. There's something that does not need to exist as they did in the old days.
You don't need that many of them anyway.
It's more, there are a lot of people, surprisingly, who come to anime cons to watch anime, but not that many. But you don't need a showing room that's showing like 8 episodes of a show or an entire show or anything like that.
Yeah, well, some of them you need basically to satisfy the industry. They come in, they set up a booth. They're like, we want you to show this anime so that people will come in and buy it
But
from
at the
us
same time,
other room.
Otakon is classically known for not being beholden to the industry, and they could just say no.
Yeah, we'll see. Anyway.
But what if instead, I would like to see showing rooms that are not, we are showing the first 4 episodes of Slayer's Revolution. But imagine if there was a showing room called, so you want to get into anime, or you've already seen Bleach, what's next? Like showing rooms or showing room events that are like an hour, 2, 3 hours long that are themed or titled or set up like a panel.
So it's like a panel, but, during a panel, usually, if you have a video panel, you're usually showing many short clips with talking in between each one. But what you could do is you basically have it be a panel room, but it's a panel where you say a little bit and watch a lot of video, and say a little bit and watch a lot of video.
So, for example, what if you had a showing room that was called, Anime Next Steps, and the description is basically, you've just gotten into anime, you don't know a lot about it. What is out there? And what it would be is you have an MC and you show like 6 different shows, the first episode of each one, from like 6 different, like the heavy hitters from 6 different genres of anime. Show like the definitive robot show. Show the first episode of Evangelion. Show the first episode of Cowboy Bebop. And, talk a little bit about each one between them and have it be an extended panel where you're explaining anime, you're showing anime, you're getting people excited about anime. It's a format that I've never seen anywhere, and I think Otakon is the con that could pull it off.
Yep. Anyway. So yeah, there was a little problem lining up for things in advance, but there's really not a solution to that other than have a lot more things going on.
And
so
just
that
to understand the scale of this and at Otakon, it wasn't just these crazy big events. Our Anime You Should See panel not only had a line out the door too big, but they actually came in and for fire code reasons kicked a whole ton of people out before we started.
Yeah, because the panel before us was standing room only, but they decided, no one's allowed to sit on the floor, no one's allowed to stand. It's once all the chairs are filled, that's it, everyone out.
But yeah, overall, this was a fantastic Otakon for the fans. There was always something to do. And a lot of times I'd be at AnimeCon, especially even older Otakons, and at a certain time, be like, I'm bored. Let's see what there is to do. And I wouldn't really be excited about
Last
something.
year at Otakon, the previous one, there were definitely long swatches of time where it felt like, what do I do? And I sat in the artist alley, bored at the table doing my fanboy feud survey. I would go to the dealer's room multiple times. This Otakon, I was only able to make it into the dealer's room once on Saturday for like an hour. And I was always worrying about the time of the next event that I had to get to at a certain time.
I mean, if I went through the schedule, there was something that I would like to do at every point throughout this con.
Pretty much.
And I mean, what else? The video game room was, as always, gigantic, and a lot of people were in there, and there were a lot of good games. And I always like Otakon's video game room because it's actually kind of chill. It's a good place to go and relax.
They have a lot of shoot 'em ups and a lot of good ones, and they had the Witch one again, the versus Witch one.
And they have a lot of just kind of weird Japanese games, and they have, they run the tournaments and all that stuff. But it's a really chill place to hang out. I like it. And the LARP was crazy as always. There were a lot of people in there. Oda-chan was rocking as always.
Yeah, I never actually went into Otakon before, which is basically the Otakon daycare. It's a place you can bring your kids, little kids at Otakon to give them something to do. That room is actually rocking in there. There's all sorts of arts and crafts going on. They got a little, kids anime showing on the screen. It is totally awesome in there. I mean, it is worth the price if you have little kids, just bring them to Otakon. Forget about the rest of Otakon. Just bring your kids to Otakon, and it's like totally awesome weekend daycare.
And I mean, I was told that like all the events I didn't get a chance to go to, we kind of sent people out and they really had a good time. Really of note, I do have to say something about the animation. We've talked about it before, but we actually saw the Otakon opening animation. They showed it. They were actually, as we found out later, contractually obligated to show it no more than once any given day.
Yeah, so the way it works is Jim Valls and, Otakon teamed up with Madhouse, the Japanese animation studio.
Jim is credited in the animation as producer. That is so cool.
That's pretty cool. And they are, Madhouse is really buddy-buddy with Otakon. Murayama, the guy, basically the head of Madhouse dude, is always at Otakon, always being awesome. He had a couple panels, hanging out. He loves Otakon, that guy. And they teamed up and they made this short animation. It was maybe a minute or two long.
It was basically, if Otakon were an anime, this is the opener.
Yes, and they played it at the opening ceremonies, they played it at the cosplay,
at the masquerade,
and they played it at the closing ceremonies.
And, well, we actually weren't going to make it to the opening ceremonies because we had a panel to run. So we sent Emily to cover it for us, and she came back just bubbling about how great it was. And actually, opening ceremonies, partly because of that animation, but from what she said, Otakon really stepped up the opening ceremonies.
Yeah, opening ceremonies at most anime conventions is lame. It's basically like, hey, we're having a con, woo, and everyone goes in.
I mean, basically,
there's barely anyone there.
Until this Otakon, the only con I had been to that had a really good opening ceremonies was like one of the 2 Anime Centrals I attended a long time ago.
Yep.
It was just, they're always kind of weak, but it was a great opening, and then they showed the animation. And that animation, it did not just meet expectations. It exceeded them to a degree that I could not believe.
Yeah.
It was full of inside jokes. The level of homage in there was epic. I mean, when the manhole covers start flying across the screen to destroy the Ava.
And only someone who was at the Otakon, which was the year all the manhole covers in the city exploded, would get the joke.
It was clearly made with all the love and dedication. Otakon is clearly the best American anime convention, and there is nothing you could say to change my mind on that.
No,
and
nothing.
This is just the solid proof of that.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can find it somewhere to see it,
Anime Expo, where's your opening animation? You got nothing.
I'm sure there will be a way, if you did not see it, to see it someday, because
if no other way, at the next Otakon.
It is so worth seeing. It is worth going out of your way to see, especially
these 2 minutes of animation.
Because it's really well animated.
It is.
I mean, it's not just homage to Otakon. The things, the references, I don't even want to get into it. There's so much in there in that such a short span of time.
Yep.
But also, I mean, briefly, Otakon, as always, they're running the masquerade in the arena next door, which is great because, we talk about lines at Otakon, but Otakon has solved one of the biggest problems of cons, which is, what do you do with the masquerade line? Because at most cons, the masquerade cannot seat everyone in the con who wants to see it. And the line will be forever, and it's crazy and horrible, and people basically have to give up their entire Saturday to attend. At Otakon, you can seat like 30,000 people in that arena. And it was like there were at least 10,000 people in there during the masquerade by my rough count.
Yep. And you can just walk in and out. Do-do-do-do-do-do.
You might not, I mean, you have to wait in line if you want to sit in front, but you don't need to because the masquerade, if you've never been to an Otakon, this is pretty much the best masquerade you're going to see because one, they have a full 3-camera crew live and giant Jumbotron screens everywhere. So they have real professional cameramen doing a real professional job. Even if you're sitting in the back, watching the cosplay is amazing.
Yep.
If you're into that sort of thing. And two, I walked in and I watched 5 skits. They were all actually really funny and well put together. The thing is, they were all basically musical numbers, like choreographed dance and music.
Yeah, because I mean, doing the spoken word sort of voice talking things, because they don't let you talk into microphones. They make you pre-record all your audio. So if it's talking and you're gonna lip sync the talking, it always comes off sort of bleh. I think.
See, the thing is, I actually saw one group that they did that first, and then it was the song and dance number. And it worked really, really well. That I mean, I didn't stay through the whole thing. I can't say how good it all was, but the ones I saw were actually good. And I wouldn't have. I was actually, if I didn't have things to do, I kind of wanted to hang out in there and watch a bunch more.
Yeah, I still do. I miss sort of the old Otakon of 3 or 4 years ago, where I would sit and watch the last hour of the cosplay on the simulcast video screen, not in the masquerade room, but in another room, just watching it on video. And then, as soon as it was over, the horribly violent movies would come on the very same screen. That I just love that, and I sort of miss it.
But think about Otakon, what this says about Otakon. Every other con, they have their cosplay. Otakon's cosplay is in a 30,000 person arena with a real professional camera crew.
Yep.
If you're a cosplayer, that is the place to be.
Yep. And another thing that was done professionally, at least from what I heard, I didn't actually go to it, was the Otakon game show. Now, Otakon never lets us do our match game because they have the official game show, and they do pre-screening for it and the whole thing. And basically, it's Jeopardy, but with a twist of some kind.
And the key is super professionalism, coupled with the fact that they screen the people before they let them in the contest.
Yeah. They also apparently have really, they have wicked high technology. Like, they're using Wiimotes to buzz in, and it's totally off the wall in terms of the production quality of the show. So it's tough for us to compete with that with our little match game.
See, the thing is, though, the match game doesn't need the high technology. All it needs is the star power.
That's right.
Of course, it also requires the stars. Thank you, Kineticon, for not providing any.
Oh, burn. Oh, burn. All right.
Oh, well. But yeah, you'll be seeing our match game at every other convention this year.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think we're running at the New York Anime Festival. Not 100% sure. Mm-hmm. I gotta actually look at that schedule. It's coming up.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, Otakon was fantastic. Everything went smoothly. If you went to the con feedback session, there were really practically zero legitimate complaints.
Yeah, there were some people complaining that the masquerade went long. It was pretty long.
Last year, they complained that it went short, and Otakon knows they're trying to figure out exactly how to make it the right length.
Yeah, it pretty much, there's too many factors in there. You can't account for everything. It's difficult. What other complaints did we hear at the feedback session?
Really nothing that was worth talking about. Some people complained about dumb things.
There was the complaint about the subtitles being unreadable, but what?
To which they basically said, duly noted, we'll fix it next year. I mean, What more do you want? There was the guy who was like, but 4chan, why can't we come back? And the Otakon staff was fantastic.
Oh, there was a complaint about the wristbands, right? And as soon as he got up there and he's like, yeah, maybe we should just ID the boo. I love it. That's the one thing I love about the Otakon feedback panel. If you go up there and you complain about something stupid and you're wrong, right? The whole audience will boo you. Like, you're wrong, boo. It was so good.
Yeah, when the guy was like, you should let 4chan in. Boo! And then the crowd just went nuts. No,
boo, no. And Otakon's response is so great. Like, you have to prove to us that you're not going to be idiots, and that's pretty much impossible.
But even better, actually, one guy went up, and he asked a question of the staff, and his question was, what is your favorite anime? And they all answered. And I got to say, the Otakon staff, like the head staff, have some classy taste in anime.
Yeah, and one guy even said, he said the Otakon opening animation, which is perfectly okay.
But before we stop, I mean, Otakon was great, but I'd love to give you guys a little insight. I'd like to talk a little bit of meta because, most cons, we get the press badge or we don't, kind of willy-nilly, but unlike any other con, Otakon is a convention where if we want to cover the convention, we want to see all the events, we want to kind of get the feel of everything, we actually do need the press pass because otherwise we can't get into the events without lining up for an hour. I mean, Katsucon, I just kind of walk into everything, and Amazement, I just kind of walked into everything, but Otakon, the press badge actually gets you everything you need.
Yeah,
but
we didn't do a lot of the stuff it gets you. Like, it gets you, like, interviews in quiet rooms with guests. We didn't do any of that. All right, we didn't want to do that.
But luckily, if you want all that press coverage, our dear friends in Anime World Order, they kind of covered the other half of press. They got all the interviews. They did all that sort of stuff. We kind of went around and got the fans' perspective. But for the first time, I actually went in, I did the paperwork. We got the press badges, walk in and out. And I got to say, Otakon is so professional when it comes to the press. It was better than the freaking New York Anime Festival, which is a professional for-profit con.
Yeah, it was good times.
I mean, I'm holding the press kit they gave us, and it was perfectly put together. They gave us these really, really nice little press notebooks that say Otakon 2008 with like business card holders, and pretty much if you wanted
that business card holder was real useful. We got a whole bunch of business cards in there.
Yeah, well, actually,
they gave us a pen, Otakon pens.
We will actually have
They're really sucking up to the press.
We'll have a lot of kind of tertiary and follow-up Otakon coverage in the next several shows as news is, as I get to kind of writing them up, and I got to clarify things with Otakon, I want to talk about something, but I want to ask them, like, well, what were the numbers and what were this sort of thing? But
yeah, we'll also talk about, we met so-and-so in the Artist Alley, check out their arts, that sort of thing.
And we also will have talk in the future about, here's all the actual announcements, like this was licensed and that was licensed and all that stuff. But pretty much, Otakon was fantastic. It was a great time to be had by all. I can't think of anything that really went wrong. Nothing affected us. Everyone had a great time. I'm kind of tired because the show went on for a long time.
Yeah, my only real problem with Otakon is that it felt a little bit shorter than other Otakons because I was doing stuff the whole time and I didn't, I kind of liked, sort of having more time to go around, look at stuff, see what was going on.
Oh no, Otakon had too much good stuff to do. What will I do?
I really felt like I only experienced a smaller fraction of the con, as opposed to previous years where I felt like I really went around and saw what there was to see. This year I felt like I was missing something.
Does really well is that there's so much good stuff going on at any given moment now that no matter what kind of anime fan you are, you'll always have something to do. If you want to watch anime, you can watch anime. You want to see a panel? There's 5 of them, and they're all great. You want to go to a concert? There's a giant concert, and then there's another concert.
Missing the concert was pretty painful, but at PAX, there's no way I'm going to see at least one of the 2 concerts.
Yeah, but, that was the price we pay for doing 1 million panels.
Yep. Oh, well. Can we end the show so I can, get to bed or whatever?
I think we can end it. If you guys have any specific questions about Otakon, other than kind of the general stuff that
we didn't have, an outline prepared when we did the show, so we sort of just kept talking and talking and talking.
Partly because we're kind of really... I mean, this is basically the only chance we get to kind of relax and recuperate a little bit before we fly out to PAX to do that big panel there and all that business. And then right after that, we have the New York Anime Festival coming up. So
right. So if you have a specific question about Otakon, go to the forums. Don't email us. Go to the forums and go to the thread for this episode and ask it, and then we'll answer it there for everyone to see the answer.
Or just email us. I mean, if you want generic Otakon coverage and you haven't listened before, you could go back and listen to all our other Otakon shows, because previous Otakon coverages, we've talked a lot more about, what all the things that Otakon is like that we really don't need to talk about again because they're the same every year. You go and watch anime and hang out and all that sort of stuff.
Yep. All right. Oh, and you can, you can find all about the violent movies if you want to find out more about the violent movies you watched, go to the Otakon schedule and then go to IMDb and put them together. Oh, yeah. And I want to give a big shout out to all the people who were at our panels who actually knew about anime. That was real refreshing to mention an old obscure anime and have half the crowd scream and yell and go, oh my God. Yeah, on the one hand, it made it hard to do a panel because the audience knows more than we do. On the other hand, it made it awesome because the audience is awesome. Well, the cool thing is, we're trying to start this meme. We explain this at every panel, how you go to any panel at a con and people say just the name of an anime and the crowd goes, woo! Every time they did that, we stopped them. We're like, what are you doing? And we've been doing this at Kineticon too, and
It's starting to work a little bit. Like at Otakon, by our third or fourth panel, people kind of stopped doing it.
Yeah.
It was amazing. Maybe
A
we
little
can
bit.
change anime culture a little bit.
Making them stop going woo.
Woo! This has been Geeknights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music.
Be sure to visit our website at www.frontrowcrew.com, where you'll find show notes, links, our awesome forum, a link to our Frapper map, and links to all the RSS feeds.
We say feeds plural because Geeknights airs 4 nights a week, covering 4 different brands of geekery. Mondays are science and technology. Tuesdays, we have video games, board games, and RPGs. Wednesdays are anime, manga, comic nights. And Thursdays are the catch-alls for various rants and tomfoolery.
You can send us feedback by email to geeknights@frontrowcrew.com, or you can send audio feedback via Audio. Just click the link that says Send Me an Audio on the right side of our website.
If you like what you hear, you can catch the last 100 episodes in iTunes or in your favorite podcatcher. For the complete archives, visit the website, which has everything.
Geeknights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial Share-alike 2.5 license. This means you can do whatever you want with it as long as you give us credit, don't make money, and share it in kind. Geeknights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.